January of 1933, Hitler becomes Chancellor. As a result of the fire of the Reichstag in February of 1933,
in the aftermath of World War II, a period typically associated with the downfall of the Nazis, the vanquished Nazis did not merely disappear. Instead, they were faced with defeat and had to reckon with the aftermath. However, what they did next will shock you. Despite losing the war, the Nazis were involved in various activities that continued to shape history. From clandestine operations to fleeing to far-off countries, their post-war activities are a mix of mystery and concern, revealing a complex and often unsettling chapter in the aftermath of a global conflict. Join us as we delve into 15 things the Nazis did after their defeat in World War II and explore the repercussions of their actions. Number 15. Looting in Ober, Saltsburg. As the news of Hitler's death spread, the once exclusive sanctuary of Ober Salzburg, previously reserved for high-ranking Nazis, turned into a chaotic scene. The local people who had long suffered under the oppressive rule of the Nazis saw an opportunity with Hitler's demise. The grand buildings like Hitler's Berghof residence and other luxurious guest houses, once symbols of power and control, now became targets of curiosity and resentment for the townsfolk. Imagine the sight. Crowds of people rushing toward these properties, driven by a mix of curiosity, anger, and the chance for gain. What followed was not just looking for possessions. It was a release for a population that had endured years of fear and hardship. As they went through the rooms, finding fancy furniture and personal items, it was like they were reclaiming a bit of their lost pride. Taking belongings from these once feared leaders shattered the illusion of invincibility that had surrounded them. More than just taking things, the looting highlighted the huge gap between the luxurious lives of the Nazi leaders and the suffering of the common people. Each item taken, be it cutlery, artwork, or furniture, served as a reminder of the stark difference and the false beliefs spread by the Nazis. However, it wasn't just about grabbing material wealth. It was a symbolic way for regular people to reclaim some power. It was a visible rejection of the Nazis' control, a bold statement that the people could take charge of their lives. Taking items from these once untouchable figures was a collective way of asserting their dignity and standing up against the oppression they had faced. The looting, beyond its appearance of seizing valuable things, ran much deeper. It was an outlet for built-up frustration and a way to confront the lies and illusions spread by the regime. Number 14. The flight of Hitler's inner circle. As the formidable Third Reich, spearheaded by Adolf Hitler, collapsed under the weight of its downfall, the gripping final acts of key Nazi figures unfolded like scenes from a solemn movie. Picture a dramatic setting where once powerful officials, their families, and even Hitler's closest aides were gripped by an overwhelming sense of impending catastrophe. These were individuals who once commanded tremendous authority and instilled fear across entire nations, now caught in a whirlwind of panic and desperation. In this tumultuous scenario was Martin Bormann, Hitler's secretary, accompanied by Hitler's secretaries, all caught up in frantic schemes to escape the advancing Allies. The frantic urgency and chaos surrounding their attempts to flee were not merely about self-preservation. They served as a stark reminder of the dramatic reversal of fortunes. Those who had ruled yesterday were now reduced to being fugitives, desperately seeking sanctuary in obscure locations, ranging from remote villages to distant foreign countries. Their escape plans were intricately detailed, involving elaborate schemes, forged identities, and secretive pathways. This starkly contrasted with their past lives of authority and dominance. These individuals, who once orchestrated widespread violence and instilled fear, now grappled with haunting apprehension and unpredictability. The looming threats of capture or death cast a dark shadow, placing them in a realm where their destinies were no longer within their control. They found themselves at the mercy of a swiftly evolving world slipping from their grasp. Their elaborate escape plans were emblematic of the regime's collapse, showcasing how the once unassailable leaders were now at the mercy of a world turning against them. Number 13. The Alpine Exodus. As the Third Reich neared its end, there was a frenzied scramble to safeguard crucial documents, prized possessions, and essential personnel. Trucks loaded with papers, historical artifacts, and trusted individuals made their way up the winding roads of the Bavarian Alps toward Ober Saltsburg. Once a place of leisure, this mountain retreat had transformed into a refuge for the remnants of a defeated regime. However, this evacuation wasn't solely about transportation. It was a desperate bid to shield the core beliefs and secrets of the Nazi ideology. These trucks weren't just carrying any old papers, they held personal correspondences, critical government papers, and intriguing blueprints that reflected Hitler's grand yet unattainable aspirations. This endeavor signified more than a simple relocation. It represented the last stand of a collapsing regime grasping onto its shattered identity. As these vehicles ascended, the air wasn't just filled with the crispness of the mountain breeze. It carried a weight of finality, marking a crucial epoch in history drawing swiftly to a close. Ironically, in their rush to preserve, the Nazis unwittingly laid the groundwork for their legendary tale. Later, historians meticulously reconstructed this episode, piecing together the concealed stories hidden within the Alpine terrain. What mysteries did these mountains safeguard? And what fate awaited the relics of a fallen empire? The answers lay hidden within the sanctuary of Ober Saltsburg, nestled amidst the grandeur of the Alps. This operation was like a race against time, a race against the encroaching Allied forces, to safeguard not just tangible artifacts, but also the intangible essence of an ideology. Number 12. Burning Hitler's private archives. In Munich, as the Allied forces drew near, a different kind of preservation unfolded, one that involved fire instead of files. Julius Schaub, an SS officer, held a pivotal mission crucial to the Nazi narrative: the obliteration of sensitive and personal materials housed within one of Hitler's apartments. Picture the heart of Munich ablaze, where flames engulfed documents, photographs, and personal letters under Schaub's vigilant eye and a trusted driver's watchful presence. Among these incinerated items likely lay correspondences that could have provided insights into Hitler's private life, potentially unveiling his relationships and innermost thoughts. Why destroy these artifacts? This act aimed to manipulate history, preventing the Allies from discovering materials that could further tarnish the already grim reputation of Nazi leadership. The destruction was both symbolic and practical. By burning these materials, the Nazis tried to erase traces of their humanity, vulnerabilities, and parts of their lives they wished to keep veiled in secrecy forever. However, as smoke spiraled from the burning heaps, it signified more than just the physical destruction of documents. It marked the crumbling facade of the carefully crafted image the Nazis had constructed. Each drifting ash carried away a fragment of a narrative they desperately sought to control, now scattered beyond their reach in the annals of history. This moment in Munich went beyond mere destruction. It embodied a final, passionate attempt to shape a legacy slipping inexorably from their grasp. The act of burning these materials epitomized the Nazis' struggle to contain a legacy slipping through their fingers, a storyline they aimed to steer, but ultimately could not entirely govern or manipulate. Number 11. The Nazi Art Horde in Salzburg's salt mines. As the Nazi regime approached its inevitable downfall, a secret operation unfolded deep beneath the Earth's surface. In the salt mines near Saltsburg, a covert mission aimed to safeguard the vast collections of looted art amassed by the Nazis. It wasn't just about storing these items, it was a frantic effort to protect the cultural treasures pillaged during the chaos of war, safeguarding Europe's artistic legacy. Imagine these salt mines transformed into surreal galleries housing some of the world's most invaluable artworks. Within the intricate network of tunnels lay paintings, sculptures, and exquisite jewelry, acquired through years of plunder and unlawfully acquired by the Nazis. Why opt for salt mines? These underground spaces offered an ideal setting: cool, dry, and most importantly, hidden from the watchful eyes of the Allied forces. These mines became the last refuge for the Nazis' ill-gotten gains, serving as a sanctuary that shielded these treasures from potential destruction or seizure. The art stashed away in these caverns represented more than just valuable possessions. It was a testament to the grand but twisted ambitions of the Third Reich. However, this effort also revealed the delusions of the Nazis. They envisioned these artworks adorning the museums and galleries of a victorious Reich. Reich. Instead, these treasures became reminders not of triumph, but of the Nazis' insatiable greed and cultural theft. The salt mines, where these hidden treasures lay, served as a metaphor for the Nazi regime itself. Much like the facade of splendor the regime projected, these concealed art collections masked a dark and hollow core. They symbolized the deceitful exterior of a regime that aimed to present itself as refined and cultured, while concealing the grim reality of its moral bankruptcy and brutality. Ultimately, these salt mines held not just pilfered art, but encapsulated the contradiction at the heart of the Nazi regime. Number 10. Nazi families in Hintersee's refuge. As the end of the Third Reich neared, something less dramatic but very telling happened. The Nazi families moved to Hintersee, a beautiful place in the Bavarian Alps. This spot became a haven for people close to Hitler, like secretaries and families of top officers. While everyone talked about the big war events, this move showed a more human side of things. Going to Hintersee was a big change for these families. They used to live in luxury and had a lot of power. Now they were facing a lot of uncertainty and fear. It was ironic that the same people who once had so much power were now trying to find peace in a simple place. Their futures were as uncertain as the war's outcome. Even though Hintersee was peaceful, the families were struggling inside. They were waiting for news about the war, worrying about their loved ones, and knowing that the Allied forces would arrive soon. Staying at Hintersee was like a safe stop where they could hide from the chaos happening in Europe. The move to Hintersee wasn't just about safety. It was also a way for them to hold on to some normal life in a world that was falling apart. For the kids and partners of Nazi officials, Hintersee was a short break from the chaos, a brief moment of peace before facing what being part of the regime meant. Number 9. The RAF strike on Ober Saltsburg.
And the bursting of fresh bombs are all you need to know.
The bombing of Ober Saltsburg by the British Royal Air Force stands as a defining moment in the final phase of the Third Reich. This was no ordinary airstrike. It was a meticulously planned attack targeting the core of the Nazi retreat. Ober Saltsburg, previously a haven for Hitler and his inner circle's strategic planning, underwent a dramatic transformation. What once symbolized Nazi opulence and ambition now became a focal point of devastation. As RAF planes soared above the Bavarian Alps, their precise aim was the buildings and headquarters that had been the nerve center for some of history's most atrocious crimes. This bombing wasn't just a military maneuver. It was a powerful message, a proclamation of the Allies' supremacy and the imminent defeat of the Nazi regime. Picture the deafening sounds, the earth-shaking blasts, and the once mighty Nazi structures, symbols of power, now reduced to ruins. However, beyond the visible destruction, there was a deeper significance. This bombing wasn't solely about leveling buildings. It was a deliberate attempt to dismantle a legacy. Each bomb that struck Ober Salzburg shattered not only concrete and steel, but also the myths and aura carefully constructed by the Nazis around them. It was a concrete manifestation of the Allies' unwavering determination, not only to defeat a regime, but to obliterate the very foundations upon which it rested. Amidst the chaos and debris of Ober Salzburg, one could witness the definitive end of an era. This place, which had once been witness to strategic meetings, leisurely stays, and pivotal decisions during the war, now lay in ruins. Number 8. Birth and burden in the Reich's collapse. During the collapse of the Third Reich, a powerful glimmer of hope emerged, a symbol of life amidst the chaos. Albert Bormann, the brother of Martin Bormann and a significant figure in the inner circle of the Nazi regime, found himself in an extraordinary situation. As the regime fell apart and the world underwent rapid and profound changes, his wife was in labor, about to bring a new life into a tumultuous world. The birth, happening during the evacuation to Ober Salzburg, held significance beyond the Bormann family. It embodied a surreal contradiction, a clash of life and death, hope and despair, marking the chaotic end of the war. Here was a family deeply entrenched in a regime responsible for terrible acts, yet experiencing the most fundamental human emotions, the mixture of joy and fear inherent in the arrival of a newborn. Imagine the scene amidst the frantic rush to evacuate, a setting filled with the distant echoes of bombings and the tangible fear of imminent defeat. Amidst this turmoil, a baby's cry pierced the air, a poignant reminder of life's resilience, even in the face of unparalleled upheaval. It seemed as though the universe was declaring that, even during the darkest times, life endures. However, this birth also sparked contemplation about the future of those born into the remnants of the Nazi regime. What legacy would this child inherit? Would they carry the burden of their family's haunting past? Or could they carve out a different future in a world striving to heal from the wounds of their predecessors? The birth of Albert Bormann's child amid the chaos of the Nazi downfall encapsulated a profound metaphor for life's complexity and the intricate weave of history. It served as a poignant reminder that even amidst devastation, life persists, often heralding new beginnings and posing the challenge of confronting a troubled past. This significant event raises thought-provoking questions about the intertwining of personal stories and historical legacies. It invites reflection on how individuals born into a tumultuous aftermath navigate their inherited burdens, seeking paths that diverge from the shadows cast by their ancestors. The birth of Albert Bormann's child during the harrowing days of the regime's collapse encapsulates the delicate equilibrium between the promise of renewal and the enduring impact of history. Number 7. Paper Trails of the Reich's Undoing. A paradoxical drama unfolded as the Third Reich neared its end, a frenzied dance between preserving and annihilating documents. This wasn't just about administrative tasks. It was a frantic race against time and the imminent scrutiny of history. Envision the dimly lit chambers, where officials sifted through piles of papers, each carrying the weight of crucial decisions. In this choreographed chaos, they walked a tightrope, trying to salvage what they perceived as their legacy, while erasing damning truths about their regime's inner workings. Amidst these documents lay both treasures and dangers. Among them were the personal letters of Hitler's half-niece, Geli Raubal, potentially offering glimpses into the secretive life of a dictator. Nestled within the heaps were grand architectural plans, a vision confined to paper, never to materialize. This paradox defined the last days of the Nazis, an unraveling regime on the brink of collapse, driven by denial, desperation, and a skewed sense of historical importance. Each document became a crossroads, a fragile junction deciding between preserving their version of history or erasing the unspeakable atrocities they committed. The choices made reflected their fractured mindset, a struggle between seeking remembrance and evading the harsh judgment of future generations. Whether hidden in secret vaults or turned to ashes, these documents silently witnessed the end of an era. They whispered tales, held secrets, and contained the strategic plots that encapsulated the twisted ambitions and horrors of a regime that once aspired to global dominance. This tumultuous period of preservation and destruction wasn't just about handling papers. It represented a final, futile attempt to control a narrative that was slipping beyond their reach. It was a desperate effort to defy the inevitable judgment of history. The Nazi officials, in their frenzied rush, aimed to craft a story, a version of events where they would be remembered and revered, instead of being condemned by the unforgiving gaze of history. Yet, ultimately, whether safeguarded or sacrificed, these documents became artifacts. Relics that spoke of the last moments of a regime, a frantic struggle to shape its legacy amidst an impending downfall. Number 6. The 4 occupation zones. After World War II, Germany found itself under the governance of the victorious Allied powers. The nation was divided into 4 occupation zones, each controlled by the United States, the United Kingdom, France, and the Soviet Union. This division was a reflection of the agreements made during wartime conferences such as Yalta and Potsdam, outlining the post-war restructuring of Europe. The purpose behind this division was to ensure Germany's demilitarization, prevent future aggression, and facilitate the country's reconstruction. Each zone had its governing structure and policies, reflecting the ideologies and interests of the occupying powers. The Western zones, controlled by the US, UK, and France, cooperated closely and implemented similar strategies for rebuilding Germany. They aimed to reintegrate Germany into the global community as a democratic and economically stable nation. Efforts focused on denazification, demilitarization, and establishing democratic institutions. The Marshall Plan, a massive U.S. aid program, was instrumental in rebuilding Western Germany's economy, infrastructure, and industry. In contrast, the Soviet-controlled Eastern Zone operated under a different agenda. The Soviets aimed to dismantle Germany's industrial capability and extract reparations as compensation for their wartime losses. They enacted policies that aligned with Soviet interests, nationalizing industry, and implementing communist ideologies. This divergence in approaches between the Western and Eastern zones foreshadowed the growing ideological divide between the capitalist West and the communist East, contributing to the onset of the Cold War. Berlin, located deep within the Soviet-controlled zone, was also divided into 4 sectors, each controlled by one of the occupying powers. This division famously led to the Berlin airlift in 1948 to 1949, when the Soviets blockaded West Berlin, and the Western Allies organized a massive airlift to supply the city, thwarting Soviet attempts to isolate it. The occupation of Germany continued until 1949, when the Federal Republic of Germany, West Germany, was established in the Western zones, and the German Democratic Republic, East Germany, emerged in the Soviet-controlled zone. This division, exemplified by the Berlin Wall in 1961, persisted until the reunification of Germany in 1990, marking the end of the Cold War era. Now it's time for today's subscriber pick. In the aftermath of the Nazis' downfall, a significant event unfolded: the capture of Hermann Göring, a prominent Nazi leader. Once a figure of immense power and authority in Nazi Germany, Göring's arrest came as a surprise, triggered by suspicions raised by another high-ranking figure, Martin Bormann. Göring's message to Hitler, advocating for his leadership, was seen as a betrayal, leading to his apprehension. This sudden turn of events highlighted the rapid disintegration within the Nazi hierarchy. Göring's arrest wasn't just about capturing a powerful figure, it symbolized the internal collapse of the Nazi regime. He had been a prominent symbol of Nazi strength, yet his arrest revealed a lack of trust and cohesion within the leadership. It demonstrated that loyalty within the Nazi ranks was faltering, with concerns not only about the advancing Allies, but also about distrust among their ranks. Let us know what you think in the comments. Number 5. The demolition of Eva Braun's world. In a final act marked by both defiance and desperation, the Nazis undertook a mission to obliterate the bunkers and possessions belonging to Eva Braun. This destruction wasn't just a tactical move. It held immense symbolic significance. It stood as a firm refusal to let these remnants of their lives fall into the hands of their adversaries. These bunkers, once formidable symbols of power, were systematically razed to the ground. The secrets they held, carefully guarded within their concrete confines, were now buried beneath debris and rubble. The demolition of these underground shelters signified much more than their physical collapse. It symbolized the complete and metaphorical downfall of the Nazi stronghold. Each explosion echoed as a mournful toll on the ambitions and illusions nurtured within those fortified depths. The destruction wasn't merely an act of removal. It was a desperate bid to erase any evidence of their horrendous actions and existence. Eva Braun's personal belongings, which could have included diaries, clothing, or photographs, were also part of this purge. These items held more than just material value. They were fragments of life closely associated with one of history's most notorious figures. The Nazis' decision to burn or destroy them wasn't just about evading capture by the advancing Allies. It was also a bid to erase traces of a private world they wanted to keep hidden. This intentional destruction of bunkers and personal possessions marked a final defiance, a refusal to leave anything that could be used against them or tarnish their reputation. However, in their rush to eliminate evidence, they inadvertently revealed their vulnerabilities and desperation. The fires consuming Eva Braun's belongings and the dust clouds rising from the crumbling bunkers became poignant symbols of a collapsing regime's frantic last moments. Even in its final moments, this regime attempted to control its story and manipulate its place in history. Yet, this act of destruction paradoxically exposed more about their weakness and fear than their strength. Their attempts to erase any potential incriminating evidence represented a desperate bid to maintain control, a futile effort to shape how they would be remembered.
Es ist alles verloren. Hoffnungslos verloren.
Number 4. CIC's quest for Nazi truth. After World War II, the U.S. Counterintelligence Corps took on a crucial task. They aggressively questioned and captured people connected to Hitler and the Nazi group. This effort wasn't just about punishment. It was essential in understanding and taking apart the big network left behind by the Nazis. The CIC teams were very determined. They searched intensely for secretaries, relatives of top officials, and anyone linked to the Nazi leaders. The interrogations were tough and thorough, showing how determined the Allies were to get rid of any trace of the Nazi system. The information they got from these interrogations was crucial in figuring out how the Nazis worked. and laying the groundwork for the Nuremberg trials. Arresting these people was a huge change. The ones who used to have a lot of power and make others scared were now powerless, being questioned by the people who caught them. These interrogations didn't just show how the Nazis worked, they also revealed the weaknesses and moral problems of the people in the regime. But this wasn't just about getting information, it was about doing what's right. By making these people answer for what they did, the CIC showed that the world wouldn't ignore the awful things done under the Nazi rule. These arrests and interrogations were a strong symbol, saying that justice would be sought, and terrible things wouldn't be accepted. More than just getting facts, these actions were about fairness, fixing things, and setting an example for how the world should behave. They were a worldwide promise to make sure people paid for the bad things done in wars and to set a standard for a world trying to understand the hard moral parts of conflicts and the duty to bring fairness after big tragedies.
The Nazis and Germany's problems can be solved in one single mighty blow against humanity.
Number 3. Forgotten loyalty. Amidst the chaotic changes in post-war Germany, a touching yet seemingly small story emerged. The tale of Negus, Eva Braun's Scottish Terrier, left behind amid the upheaval. Negus's situation stands out as a poignant reminder of the personal amidst the sweeping events of history. Once a companion in the highest echelons of the Nazi circle, this dog was suddenly abandoned, wandering amidst the ruins of a collapsed regime. Negus's abandonment carries deep symbolism, reflecting the final days of the Nazi leaders as they faced the harsh truth of defeat. Even the most loyal companions were left behind, forced to fend for themselves. Negus, in his forsaken state, became a symbol of the crumbling Nazi power. Once mighty and feared, now scattered and forgotten. However, Negus's story goes beyond being left behind. It embodies the chaos and desperation of those tumultuous final days. Imagine this faithful dog, used to a life of comfort by Eva Braun's side, now trying to navigate a world turned upside down. Negus's journey from a pampered pet to a stray mirrors a small yet resonant aspect of the larger story of downfall and confusion. More than just a pet story, Negus's fate captures the human side of history, the overlooked personal experiences that often fade amidst significant historical events. While attention focuses on leaders and major happenings, it's these seemingly minor stories that offer a more relatable human view of history. Negus, in his way, becomes a part of the narrative of the Nazi downfall, representing the overlooked and the peripheral. Yet, in doing so, he enriches our understanding of these monumental events with a layer of depth and humanity. Number 2. Post-war lives of Hitler's secretaries. In the aftermath of World War II, the lives of individuals once intimately associated with Hitler and the Nazi regime ventured into uncharted territory. Figures like Christa Schroeder and Jana Wolf, former main secretaries to Hitler, found themselves facing a reality drastically different from their days within the upper echelons of power. Their post-war existence provides a poignant glimpse into the complex destinies of lesser-known Nazi affiliates. After enduring arrest and prolonged detention, often spanning several years, these individuals were eventually released into a world that had undergone radical transformation. The transition they encountered was profoundly challenging. They were thrust into a society grappling with the aftermath of war and struggling to come to terms with the horrors of the Holocaust. For many of these individuals, their release meant carrying the heavy burden of their past. They often lived in obscurity, attempting to assimilate into a society deeply scarred by the oppressive regime they had served. Schroeder and Wolf, among others, chose to chronicle their experiences through writing. In doing so, they offered a unique perspective on life within Hitler's inner circle. Their accounts, though often controversial, contributed significantly to the broader narrative of the war. They provided insights into the personal dimensions of the Third Reich, shedding light on the inner workings, complexities, and human aspects within Hitler's close circle. Their writings added a layer of understanding to the war's history, offering glimpses into the personal struggles, dilemmas, and choices made by those who were part of the regime but remained less conspicuous in historical accounts. Amidst the post-war reconstruction and global healing, these individuals grappled with their internal reckonings, striving to reconcile their past actions with a world trying to move forward from the devastating aftermath of the war. Number 1. The pursuit of Nazi fugitives. As the war drew to a close, the aftermath unfolded with the capture and fates of fallen Nazi officials. From high-ranking officers to Hitler's closest aides, many were on the run, their destinies uncertain in a swiftly changing world. This pursuit wasn't just about capturing fugitives. It marked a deep moral reckoning, a relentless quest to hold those responsible for unimaginable atrocities accountable for their actions. The Allied forces spared no effort in their relentless pursuit. Names like Albert Bormann, Julius Schaub, and even Hitler's secretaries, once symbols of power and fear, were now among the most wanted individuals. Some officials were swiftly caught, leading to imprisonment and subsequent trials. However, others managed to slip away, adopting new identities and hiding in the shadows, haunted by their dark pasts. Each capture, each revelation of complicity, represented a story in itself, a small victory in the broader fight against the lingering remnants of Nazi ideology. These captures weren't just about seeking revenge, they symbolized a world struggling to come to terms with the horrors it had witnessed. The subsequent trials and imprisonments weren't solely about delivering justice, they aimed to record and comprehend the depths of Nazi crimes. Yet the fates of these officials varied widely. Some, like Albert Bormann, lived in hiding until their eventual capture or voluntary surrender. Others faced rigorous trials and were duly sentenced for their crimes. However, a few managed to evade capture for extended periods, living lives far removed from their former prominence, a mere shadow of their past glory. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.